How you doing, people? Season of the Worm Cult is really close, and we need to go over some of the changes for the Templar class for the Elder Scrolls Online. So if you're interested in what's to come in Update 46, stay tuned, it is all coming right up. So what's changed? Should we panic? No, we should not. Right. First off, passives. There are some very important passives that have changed. Piercing Spear now has a 2% increase over the original base that we had, which was 10%. Now it's 12. Spear Wall gives us minor Berserk now, as well as minor protection for using Adric Spear abilities, which is absolutely nuts. Burning Light now has a higher chance of applying status effect, and it scales off of the higher of your weapon or spell damage. And of course, we've got a really handy one in here, which is for healing, and that increases the healing done depending on how low people's health basically is, but for all heals, not just restoring light heals. We've also got this. Activate an ability with a cast or channel time while in combat will automatically block. Completely free with a 15-second cooldown. How does that work? Well, you see this? This is a channeled ability. While you're in combat, that now blocks. You can see the little symbol that was in front of my face there. That is a block. And yes, it also applies to a Jesus Beam, which means you might want to keep that skill line. Now, there are two mythics in the game that are activated via a block. Since it counts as a proc, it doesn't proc those procs. So there is one that will make you stand completely still and give everyone health recovery and block mitigation. And there's another that will make you basically mitigate 90% damage very quickly for a short burst. Those two I tested before the PTS was live on an internal server. I voiced my concerns there, and those two are not affected because that would be two problems. One, OP as hell in some situations, and two, a bit of a hindrance to those using it because it would keep making them stand still. Anyway, that has been alleviated, so procs don't proc procs, no problem. Now, where this does come into play is obviously jabs and Jesus Beams or any other channel that you're using. Now, this does affect also this. As you can see there, I'm blocking while heavy attacking, which is mad. Now, the skills themselves, the important part. Puncture and Sweeps was changed. Instead of doing the most damage to the closest target and then splashing all the rest of them, that has been altered so that it hits 6 targets now maximum, but every one of these gets hit exactly the same amount of damage. So technically speaking, that was buffed. Now, you can argue that the health recovery or the healing from the damage you do is less now in a flat percentage, but because you're hitting more targets for more damage instead of those targets for less damage, you actually end up coming out on top. So in a single target fight, you're going to get a decent amount. In a big fight with multiple enemies, you're going to get a lot more. So the more enemies, the more healing. Obviously, that was the case before, but now it's much more impactful. So they've made it so it's relatively balanced in a way that you can benefit in a single target fight, but it's better if you get stuck in. Now, this was also changed. Blazing Spear and Luminous Spear. Blazing Spear is quite simple. Now, this will land on the ground, do damage initially to all enemies caught inside of it, up to 6. It will do damage over time, and it has a synergy attached to it that your group members can pick up. It will give them 3,960 stamina or magicka back if you're using the Blazing Spear, and it will give both back if you're using the Luminous Spear. Now, the difference is Blazing Spear now does a lot more damage, so it's incentivized for you to take advantage of the full duration of the damage over time. Luminous Spear does less, however, there's an extra perk to it. I can take my own synergy. Now, why would you want to do that, you ask? Well, technically speaking, if you're wearing enough light armor and depending on your recovery bonuses and your reduction to cost, you can actually get this very cheap. At the moment, this cost me 2.5k. I get 3.9 back, so I can use that to fill my bar. Also, it's filling the other bar. So if I'm dodge rolling like a lunatic all the time, then hold and block because I'm scared of everything, and I cast this, I get the cost back, and I get stamina back. Self-sufficient. And you can use it for your group, so it works both ways. Solo application, individual purpose needs inside a situation where you really need resources real quick, and that's all you've got left. And of course, if you're trying to block, maybe you're a tank, and you want to use this every 20 seconds to give yourself extra stamina, or if you just want to use it anyway because it's awesome. That is a good change. Finally, however, Jesus Beam was altered. There's 2 different versions of this. So, before, Radiant Glory used to do 480% extra damage at the lowest point of the enemy's health, and Oppression used to do 500%. Now they both do 500. However, this kicks in your execute damage starts kicking in at 33% health and lower rather than 50. So it's much later that you get to use it, even though the damage is actually ramped up a considerable amount versus before. So you will get more DPS out of this depending on how you build now, but you have to use it much later. Oppression, however, starts at 40%. So you can start getting that extra damage earlier. The downside to Oppression is that it doesn't heal. So Radiant Glory and Oppression at low health can do the same amount of damage, but consistently through a fight, if you start earlier, the other one will do a bit more to start with. This will heal you for 17% of the damage inflicted, which is a very, very large heal. And the channel has changed. It is now a longer channel. Instead of 1.8 seconds, it's 3.8. So it's very, very long duration channel that you've got loads and loads of time to think inside mechanics while using it. So you just do this, and you can move around and stay out of stupid, and you don't have to keep micromanaging it for too long. It's very, very nice. But above all, it now costs resources per 0.7 seconds. Oppression costs a lot more. Glory costs a lot less. So less cost and heals. The other one, higher cost and you can use earlier. One more major contributor to this particular skill is that it is now considered as direct damage. So if you're built for jabs and you're doing channeled and direct all the time, this now actually scales off of the same stats. Now, with it being direct, you have to consider one very important factor, and that is your weapon choices. Now, generally speaking, you can use any weapon for anything. There's no rules for that. But that does affect the Destro passives. As you can see here, if you are using a destruction staff and you're using flame, this increases the damage done for damage over time and status effects, while lightning staves increases direct and channeled. Your channeled ability is now only boosted by the lightning staff, not the flame. And your block comes with it as well. So direct damage, lightning staff makes sense. Don't use a flame staff if you don't want to. You can use it for other skills, but it's not going to affect this one. Before it was 50-50, now it's not. Free blocking. Direct damage, big heals, cheap resources. Bear in mind, you may have been in situations before where there's multiple different enemies that have to die really, really quickly, and you Jesus Beam one for like 3k magicka, Jesus Beam another for 3k magicka, and they're all dying within the first second anyway. Now that is no longer a problem, because if you activate it and finish it really quickly, it costs you next to nothing. It's only just over 600 for me at the moment per cast, so if it is cut short, it is fine. So that, in a nutshell, is pretty much it. Really cool Healy passives, and of course blocking for channeling, which means you might want to keep that particular skill line, even if you're subclassing or trying to. Damage over time is no longer part of the Jesus Beam. It is just direct, so you will see different numbers in different places, i.e. you'll see it above his head rather than orange. Jabs is way stronger in a crowd now, and Luminous Spears gives you your own synergy. Overall, that's pretty damn good. It feels like the Templar has got a lot more upfront aggression added to it, especially in a crowd, and it's much more manageable as far as resources are concerned. So pretty good all round. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Are you excited for update 46? Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.